Good morning. Good smoky morning. Good cold smoky morning. Happy Thanksgiving coming up here in a few days. And we'll be talking a little bit about that in a second. But we just want to greet you today from the Patriot, KMYC Radio, 1410 AM. Or if you're an FM fan, 104.3 FM. We're out here on Mount Huth, and we are not live on Saturday. We are fresh bred, pre-recorded. So we have new material, but we are recording Friday morning for Saturday. And because we both, Wikiman and I, Santos Vigil, could not be here together, and we need to do this together. So here we are, Friday morning for Saturday. So you can call in, but again, you'll get a voicemail, and I don't want you to get frustrated because I don't know that anyone really ever answers those unless you just want to give a shout out or something. Let's see. So let me give you some ways that you can listen to this if you're out in a fringe area and the reception's not so hot. Because the little AM, FM here reaches portions really solidly through 2 or 3 counties like Yuba, Sutter, Colusa, or something like that. But when you get out into Butte, too far out into Butte, or way up into Nevada, or Placer, it may get a little scratchy down towards Sacramento. So you can listen on a phone app, or you could go to our website at kmycradio.com, kmycradio.com, and then look for the Listen Live button. And I hope the live stream will be working for you. And if all else fails, if you're a regular listener, you may use this already, but out of the good-hearted nature of Chris Starkey, who has a YouTube site called One Eye Blind Media, all 4 words with a space in between, One Eye Blind Media. He places this show minus a few clips because of copyright infringement issues. He has to scrub those off. But the basic show is on his YouTube site or YouTube channel, One Eye Blind Media, and you can just pick the date you want, and you can listen to it whenever you want, and it's loud and clear because it's a recording as opposed to listening it through the airwaves, as they say. So there's all your ways to get a hold of us. If you want to dial up the station, you can and leave a message. Yay or nay, thumb up, thumb down, 530-742-5555. If you're new to us, we're here every Saturday from 9 to noon. I think we're about 5 years into this. And some friends, I'm not a radio guy really, some friends of mine just talked me into going on the radio, and we started out at 1 hour many years ago. And I thought, what in the world? How could a person talk for 1 hour straight? It's shocking. And then they added a second hour, and then eventually we did a third hour, and so we're kind of like flying a holding pattern at 3 hours. Seems like a lot of time, doesn't it? So we try to cover, if you're new to this, we try to cover local issues and state issues, national issues. It's a kind of political talk. It's my perspective, totally biased, of course. And but at least I tell you that from the beginning. It's just my perspective. That's why we call it Live with Lou, not Live with Fred, because I'm just talking about what I think. And kind of the motive for this, I didn't ever want to be on the radio because my Saturdays, like yours, are really busy. But I'm getting older, and I didn't know how much time I had left, and I was unhappy with a lot going on in our country. And my family members had fought in wars for this country. They gave years of their lives during World War II. My uncle and my dad, and I have grandkids, and I just wasn't. I thought, you know something, I need to just make a statement here, right? And so this is sort of my statement and my free speech. So if you enjoy it, great. If you don't, the nice thing about it is there's still in this country hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of stations and podcasts, and maybe there's thousands and thousands. In other countries, there's just one station, like in Vietnam, where I'm going to be going here pretty soon. When they I tell them, oh, you couldn't get through to on my phone because I was on the radio. They said, what? Because they have communist control radio, right? Same way it was in Russia. I called it Pravda. All the media was just one media, and all communist countries same way. So there's not this freedom. So they're so fascinated in these foreign countries that know me that I'm on the radio, and they said, "Well, Lou, what do you talk about?" I said, "Anything I want to talk about," because they can't talk about anything they want to talk about over there. I used to come back from. We were smuggling Bibles into China. We got involved in that in the early 90s. And, Americans now are so ignorant that they didn't even know what a communist country meant, the younger generations. And so they would kind of mockingly say, well, I thought they had, communists can have Bibles. And then even Christian people would say, well, I heard they print Bibles in China. And I said, do you know how many they print? Oh, well, I don't know. I said, well, there's 1 billion people. They don't print that many Bibles. They print some, but not that many. So, and they're only available to the registered church where they tell you what you can and can't say. Can you imagine that if you were going to church and the government actually appointed the speaker and told them what they could and couldn't say, and you couldn't bring any kids into the church meeting or any military people? And now they do facial recognition. They take photographs of you. So, I used to tell people back in the 90s, early 90s, that and when email, remember when email came in? When email came in, we were advised don't email from over there or don't receive emails over there talking about what we were doing. And so I followed the rules, right? And I told my friends, hey, don't email me and ask me about what specifically I'm doing. Because they said they read the emails, and Americans over here just thought, Lou, you are such a conspiracy theorist. You're just so full of crap. And I used to say, hey, I think that's what's going on. It's a communist country. They monitor the phones. They monitor your hotel room conversations. They monitor the email as email came into fashion. And they also monitor Facebook and websites. So as those developed in the 90s. So then all of a sudden you remember when the whole NSA, how many of you knew anything about anything called the NSA back in the 90s? I don't even remember hearing about it. But then all of a sudden we realize now that not only were the communists overseen, remember the whole controversy over Hillary Clinton about email and her having all these emails with an unprotected server. And so foreign people could tap in and look at her emails that were sensitive to the security of the United States of America. So all of a sudden, we realized in America that there was this NSA that was listening to telephone calls, that was looking at emails, that they were looking at everything. In fact, even locally here in the Yuba-Sutter County area, my interaction with law enforcement, I know that they monitor Facebook pages and to see what people are up to, gang members and stuff. And criminal types. And so anyhow, the whole situation in communist countries is very strict control. And I'll be going over there in a couple of days. We're pre-recording this show for tomorrow, but then Santos will have a special show the following weekend when I'll be gone. But anyway, life in America is more and more looking like life in communist countries. I'm hosing down my throat here. It's a little smoky out here. We're out here on Mount Huth in Yuba County. We're hoping that one day it's called the state of Jefferson or some other state name. I'm not stuck on the state of Jefferson name, either or for me. Jefferson's fine with me. I don't care about the label. I just want out of California without having to leave my where I live. I just like to have a new government. If you we're going to play today a documentary. I call it a documentary about what's shaking in the state of California. And when you see all these elements of the state that are so dysfunctional, it's really a socialist state now. And it will be shocking. And normally I don't do this. It's a long documentary. We'll break it up into a couple segments. but it's overall it's almost 30 minutes, but it's worth it, and it's fast moving, and it's a collage of a lot of different topics about the state and what's going on in the state. You may be living here and just think, man, this is a weird operation, but when you listen to this, a lot of things are going to start to make sense to you that you probably haven't seen clearly. So anyway, we'll figure out a time. I threw it in the mix here late last night, and so we'll jam it in somewhere this morning. I think you'll enjoy it. Like I say, normally I don't play big long clips. I usually just talk and play short clips. Hey, all of you that certainly that can hear this station are being afflicted by the policies right now of the state of California, the environmentalist policies that have forbidden people to thin forest, clean out the underbrush, because it's more natural. So what we've descended into is environmentalist hell, and as if there was no modern management of the world. And so the environmentalists would love to see us have floods again, remove all the dams. And so you have drought, and then you have floods, and destroy everything. You have forests that you can't go in, you can't log, you can't do anything. And then they burn to the ground. And they on one hand, they argue for pure air, pure water. And it's fascinating even on the fish thing. Oh, we want more and more water for fish, more and more water for fish in a pure, unadulterated, no human involved environment. In a drought in California, the fish would all die. Just think about it. Once the water runs off and there's no dams and you just got whatever snow melt is left, that thing, you could walk across the Feather or Yuba River or any river around you, and you could just walk across in your tennies. It's just total nonsensical. You just as well have a government that's managed with people on LSD. So what we have now, as you're sitting here in Northern California, trying to take short little breaths, or now you have to wear a mask. Never in my life, was born and raised here in Northern California, have we had to wear a mask. Never. And so all of a sudden now, and of course, Brown, who honestly has got to have dementia, he stood up the other day and said, the reason we're having these forest fires are because of the climate change deniers. Did you hear that? The climate change. In other words, I'm a climate change denier. I don't know what in the world I had to do with these forest fires. I would never manage these forests this way. I would be thinning the forest. I would put people in there mucking out the underbrush, put machines in there to chew it up into compost, something. Because, this isn't new science. Human beings have been managing forests, even without big machines, for centuries. And all of a sudden, environmentalists now call the shots in California. And now we have the environmentalist forest, which is a thicket. And we go from a thicket where supposedly bugs and birds and creatures can thrive to we burn them all up. We incinerate them. Does that make a lot of sense to you? It's just, it's totally insane. It's totally insane. So, we're sitting here in the smoke today. I don't know how long this smoke's going on, but we've been in a state of emergency I live in Wiccan, and I live in Yuba and Sutter counties, and it's been wild here. I think we have the highest, or the worst air in the state of California, maybe in the United States, and you don't even want to take a breath. So I wanted to mention that there is a lot of rescue operations going on and help out there. And I wanted to mention, if a lot of times in a big disaster, there's a lot of help right at first, then people settle down and go on about their business. They're still finding bodies. I think we're over 50 bodies right now, isn't it? Did you see that? But they're still missing people. And here's the big problem. The people that lost their homes today, on the 16th of November have still lost their homes. They don't like in a sitcom or in a television series, somebody will get shot and killed, but then they show up in another series later on. They bounce back, these actors. Well, there's no bouncing back with these houses. And so people are trying to figure out, and if you've ever been through a real bad trauma, somebody you love died and you didn't expect it to happen, it just happened, you got a call and it happened. It's difficult to think. It's difficult to process. It's different. You feel immobilized, kind of catatonic. That's immobilized. You can't make decisions. You have a difficult time just processing. Some people just sit. They're numb. All their, I was at an event the other night where they donated $1,500, the Alpha Sigma Iota fraternity or sorority, some ladies in Yuba Sutter area that donated $1,500 to tip. And I was mentioning to them the impact of a fire when you lose your birth certificate, your passport, your marriage license, all your paper trail of who you are, and everything, your insurance papers, your credit card backup papers, maybe the deed to your house or properties you have. Maybe it's all your business documents, and you lose it all, and then it's all replaceable, but it's a big job, right? Like if you lose your driver's license, that may be the worst thing you'll ever have to replace because you can't get through the DMV. And when I spelled it out for these people none of these people had lost their homes, there were about 25 people there. They said, Lou, when you said that, we never thought of it that way. We just thought, oh, you lost your building, your house, right? But then all the stuff, your computer, your da-da-da. So you have to start all over. So what I wanted to mention is that the church that I'm affiliated with, the Church of Glad Tidings, years ago, one of the members said, I'm going to build you a warehouse. I'm going to pay for it. I'm going to build it. And they put up a 6,000 square foot warehouse. And for years, we've been taking donations from corporations and we redistribute it locally and extra locally. So when this whole thing blew up, this fire, we stepped it up. And right before that, we got a massive load of like 800,000 particle mass. And we had cots, and we thought, whoa, this is amazing. Why do we get all this right now, right? But we'd been having fires. We had the Cascade fire a year and a half ago. We had the Lake County fire. We had the Redding fire. So we've been shipping stuff all over the place. So we have had a huge outpouring of donations. They say it's going to rain within the next week or so. Did you hear that? And so we have stuff inside the warehouse, but outside the warehouse in it, and we need your help. They need your help out there. I'm headed to Vietnam here in 24 hours. So I'll be gone for the next 12 days, but they need your help, and they need your help sorting the donations. And what they're doing is taking all the clothes, and we're not making it hard for people. We want to make it easy for people. So we set up clothing racks just like in a store, and we've sized everything, make sure it's clean, whether it's a coat or a shirt or a dress or whatever. And then there's bins of clean, brand new socks and underwear. There's all kinds of cool stuff, new toys, lots of new stuff, but also lots of just slightly used stuff. But we're going through it, purging it, sorting it out, hanging it, and we need help doing that. And we have like a truckload or two of that stuff. I mean, 52-foot truckload to sort through. So today from 8 to 5, tomorrow, or excuse me, I'm losing track of what day I'm speaking about. So Saturday, when as you listen to this, from 8 to 5, Sunday from noon to 5, and then next week, Thanksgiving week, from 8 to 5 each day, except for Thanksgiving. If you can go out there and just give an hour, be perfect. You don't have to spend all day. And it's just sorting, hanging, organizing, so people can come in, sign up, and just load up and get whatever they need very easily. What you don't want is people that are traumatized, where they've lost everything, come in, and it'd be very frustrating. And I want to talk, I'll talk a little bit more about it, as we go on today, about the helps effort around town and my experience with it. But please, if a lot of people want to know, what can I do? And I know Assemblyman Gallagher did a drop off of gift cards, which is great. I heard they raised like $35,000 in gift cards, which is great. And there's all kinds of things people have been dropping off, which is beautiful. And some people have been giving money to places. In fact, Glad Tidings asked for some money if you want to donate to Church of Glad Tidings. None of it goes to administration. We're simply moving trucks around. We're sending trucks up into the fire area with supplies. And sometimes people just donate to trucking. Other times we have to pay for a trucker because it's a tractor trailer rig to move it. So if you want to donate, you can go on the churchofgladtidings.com website and you can donate to them. But we really need people. We need people, and we've had the Beale Air Force Base out there. We've had all kinds of just folks, teens from the high school, all kinds of folks, and everybody can do this. This is not difficult. It's not complicated. Anybody can do it. Come out and bring your kids and donate an hour or two and get we're going to celebrate Thanksgiving, but a lot of people are not going to have much of a Thanksgiving this year because they lost everything. So we'll be right back. Welcome back. You're listening to Live with Lou, and we're here on Friday morning talking for Saturday morning because we couldn't be here together on Saturday morning, but this is all new material. We're not like doing warm-overs, the worst of, the best of, but it's just the of, Live with Lou. And we just want to thank, I just should thank Tom Huth, who runs this station. We've been on here for years, and it's a blessing to be able to just be on here and talk to people and take on some projects that we think are important. And so we're talking before the break about the rescue and the help effort going on in Northern California to help the Camp Fire victims, and there's all kinds of stories. And so church people, community people from the Yuba Sutter area. I can't speak for the other counties because I'm not there, but I've been involved in what's going on here. I run the trauma intervention program, so I know victim services for both Yuba and Sutter County have been heavily involved, and probation has been heavily involved. Law enforcement has been heavily involved. It's been a trying situation for those that had bearing the brunt of this. The fire departments, a lot of pressure, a lot of stress. It's one thing to fight a fire for a few days. It's another thing for a few weeks. And to keep it up, people just wear out. And so even the volunteers, you can get giving fatigue, generosity fatigue. But all over, I got up this morning to kind of get ready for today, and I noticed on Facebook some of my friends, 3 of my friends, standing out in front of the warehouse at Church of Glad Tidings at 4444 Live Oak Boulevard. I noticed them standing out front doing a little a video and telling people how wonderful the whole effort has been and that they could use more help. But it's been a really stellar effort, and they were just describing the effort of preparing and getting organized. A lot goes on behind the scenes to prepare supplies and resources to help people that have lost everything when they're not thinking clearly. And you're also trying to sift out the tweakers and the ne'er-do-wells. One guy came in and just started loading up stuff, they told me yesterday, and he had a really nice car, like 2 years old, and finally they walked over and said, "Hey, you haven't come in and signed up, and where do you live?" "Oh, I live over on Garden Highway." That, for you that were out and about, that's in Yuba City. He wasn't a fire victim at all. He just thought, I'm going to go cash in on some of this generosity, right? And, some of those people just need to be taken out and beaten down to a pulp and take their car and steal it from them. It's just like the looters. They're catching up there at the campfire. In fact, you saw they had a shootout up there the other day, a murder suspect, and they just had a full-blown shootout and killed a dog, bandit. They call him, I guess, an officer, a police dog, I call him, but horrible. He shot, I guess, his dog. I don't know what all happened, the details. The culprit got shot and killed, but unfortunately, bandit died, and so, there's just a lot has happened. And, so way to go. We've been in the trauma intervention program. We've been, pulling shifts at the request of, victim services in Yuba County, Jason Roper, who operates that, group. And then there's another one in Sutter County, but they've all been working together. And he called early on and said, hey, can you pull shifts? Can you tip volunteers come over 2 or 3 each shift? At the fairgrounds to care for and love on those people that are coming there and just, once had a house, once had animals, once had their life in order, and now everything's been just tossed out the window. So we've been going over there, and then a lot of the, church folks, and just folks from, even non-church folks from around the community have just come there saying, we'll help, we'll do whatever. So there was an outpouring of kindness to people, right? Handing out material, handing out resources, feeding people, and loving on people. One of the popular things is the After the Fire book that the trauma intervention program made years ago, and we've been handing out for nearly 25 years. And it's a book that helps people think through the details of their life and how to get organized after they come home and they realize their house is gone and it's burned down. Like, what do you do next? How do you get your papers back? How do you put your life back together? What could be, if there's anything left of the house, what can be restored, what couldn't, all those kind of things. So that's been a really popular book, and it's been available in the Yuba Sutter County area for both the Cascade Fire and the current Campfire fire. So we've been handing out those by the hundreds and have been a big help. So one of the things that's interesting to me is in any emergency situation is tempers can get tested, and grace, the grace buffer that we normally have in our lives for people that are kind of get on the edge and get testy. Most people have a grace buffer to just let it go, right? You don't want to fight over everything. But anyway, I got a call last night. Actually Saturday night, I was attending a church service, and some of the people were coming in from the fairgrounds, and they said, hey, they said, Lou, we've never done this before, and this is our first crisis, and we were over there trying to help. They're just church folks. And they said the Red Cross exhorted us that we were not allowed to pray with a fire victim. I said, the next time you see a Red Cross worker, just tell them to go to hell. And something, tragedies are not a Jesus-free zone. In fact, even hypocrite senators and congressmen, when the Twin Towers was attacked by the Al-Qaeda people, they all got down and prayed. And so I don't know what's got into some of these secular I don't care what spiritual vein or river you flow in, but, we need all the help we can get. I was telling somebody the other day, if you read the book of the book of Jonah, and when they were on this ship and there was a big storm, and the captain of the ship basically did a call out to everybody that was on the ship. Hey, whoever you believe in out there, let's call on everybody because we need to hit the big one here and get not drowned. And so I find it just completely rude. It's interesting with the gal that started the Red. It's so fascinating that most of these very successful help organizations, whether you look at the YMCA, that you don't see much of today, but it was huge. Starting after just in the early 1900s. And then the Red Cross started all by Christian people, right? Now you can't even talk about God. And I just think it's the work of the devil. If you don't believe in him, it's okay with me. It's like, stupid people don't know a lot of stuff. So, I find the Red Cross to be offensive, and I don't put up with it myself. And I think we just need, for people that are spiritual people, to just hose a few people down in a row and put them in their place. And even the Yuba County government didn't take that approach, or Sutter County government, that we couldn't actually say a prayer with an old person. By the way, if you saw a lot of the victims, many of the victims were senior citizens. And whether or not the Red Cross knows there's a God or not, or wants to acknowledge it, a lot of those senior citizens believe in God, right? And so if people needed a prayer, hey, we're going to pray with them, right? The other thing is, last night we were all scheduled in shifts at the Yuba Sutter Fairgrounds, and Red Cross shows up and said they fired everybody. They said, y'all can go home. We got this now. And again, to them, I'll just say, to hell with you people. We don't need you. We can do this without you. And this community, if Red Cross disappeared tomorrow, we could perform quite well without them. There's plenty of very generous people. The Yuba Sutter area, I can't speak for Nevada, Placer. I'm sure there's wonderful people in all the counties. Northern California people are down-to-earth people and take care of business. When something goes funky, they're on it. And yeah, we're going to work with the professionals, the firefighters and cops, but people up here take care of business, and we do not need a national organization. We're not dependent on a national organization where the CEO gets $400, $500, $600, $700,000. We're not hung up on that. We can just get out there and get it on. I really love the fact that James Gallagher took it upon themselves to just say, we're just going to grab some gift cards. People could use some gift cards, and they raised $35,000. So way to go. And tip, by the way, when trauma intervention, the other day, I'll just give you an example. I've been running this tip thing for 25 years. We do about 450 911 responses a year. So the other day, some days we don't even do a call, right? But other days we do 6 calls in 24 hours. So the other day, we had a suicide in the Yuba City Walmart parking lot from people. A guy shot himself, a young guy that was from out of the area. We ended up assisting victim services in Sutter County of helping his girlfriend get a place to stay and getting her back to North Carolina, and buying her food and taking care of her, right? Giving her a solid. But in that 24 hours, we did a suicide, an infant death, 3 other deaths, and then a medical emergency. And so we got this in this community. We're one of the few communities in the United States that have the trauma intervention program. We have 2 good victim services outfits. We're used to responding to crisis, whether it's a flood or fire or whatever it is. And we don't need people like telling us, you can help, but you can't talk about God. And I think people have lost their minds in the United States. I don't know where you think, maybe you didn't ever look at our heritage, and maybe you don't know God, but you need to tone it down, right? Now, the other thing that I think is so fascinating is all of a sudden, and I get it, I'm breathing the same air you are, right? So I get it. It's funky out there, right? So how does the government get off sending all their people home with paid days off? And yet, did you go shopping when you got off? Did you go to the restaurant where people are having to work because they got to pay their rent? They got to pay their utility bills. They got to pay for their kids' trousers, right? And all those people, when you shut the schools down, all those kids got to go home, and then people got to pay for babysitters. And so all you government people, and I know the government people themselves, the employees, didn't choose to do this or that. It was the oversight of these 2 counties. But it's like, I asked somebody, I said, well, when you go home like that, I don't know. I have to ask. I don't know everything. And so I asked, now, how does that work? They're going to be off till the 26th? Do they get paid? Yeah, they get paid. Somebody told me they get paid. I went over. I needed to go to the county clerk yesterday in Yuba County. I needed some help. I go over there, the door's locked. You can't get in. We're closing. And somebody went on Facebook, an Air Force couple that are trying to move here, and their house was supposed to close this week, but they couldn't record the deed. They couldn't record the gig. So now they can't even move in this weekend. And I just thought, you just close the government offices. First of all, you force everybody that they cannot do business. You can't get a building permit. You can't do this. You can't do that. You can't fix this. You can't fix that. You got to ask permission to take a piss. And then you leave. You shut down. Oh, well, we don't want, we're going to save the community money by closing randomly on Fridays. Or we're going to close because, I want you to just think about it. I don't even have like central air in my house, so I get what I get through the windows, right? Through the cracks in the windows, the double hung windows. The government facilities have the nicest air purification systems in the community. They got the best air conditioning, filtering systems. The schools, when I went to school, we didn't have all that, but now they have air conditioning and heating through filtering systems. It's just too much to just keep going. If they said, hey, wait a minute, it's so funky here that we need everybody to move, evacuate, like we did when the Oroville spillway happened, right? When that crisis happened. But no, they're not saying move. They're saying just go smell the air at your house. That don't make any sense to me. So they're not telling you what you can and can't do as a government employee. They just said, we're going to keep paying you. You don't have to do any work. So that screws up the rest of the people that are working at McDonald's, that are working at shoe stores, that are running the water treatment plants, that are cops, that are firefighters. The people, you know what it reminds me of is the hypocrite Christians. Let me tell you this. I've always been fascinated about this. Some Christians, I wasn't raised in a church or raised with a Christian family. So when I got converted, a miracle happened to me. I went into church and I thought, I didn't know how it operated. But some people said, you need to be in church on the Lord's Day. It's a big deal. And so then people had a pissing contest on which day that was. But it was a big deal, like, you need to be in church, or like you're blowing it big time. But it's a fascinating thing is, so say if we all agreed Sunday was a day, then the church people would leave the church meeting and run over to the restaurant to eat. Well, how would those people go to church? Like they were like down on people that didn't go to church, but then they went over and ate at the restaurant. And how's those people going to go to church if they're eating at the restaurant? Why don't they go home and cook their own damn food? Right? Right? It's just like if you believe so much that people should be resting on a certain day, then why should the cops have to be running around town and come over your house because the dog's barking next door? Why don't you give the cops off that day as well? And the nurses at the hospital. Say, if you go over after church and you get sick after eating at the restaurant and then you want to go to the hospital, why would the nurses have to work to take care of you, right? It's just so hypocritical, right? And so, this whole thing about the government, on my Facebook page, almost every supervisor I know posted this whole big state warning. It's a state of emergency. Okay, fine. But everybody just got to walk out of their government office and go have an ice cream. So what's the point in all that? All you did is like screw everybody else up because they have to deal with the government, because you forced us to have to deal with the government. You have to ask your permission to do this, so, and the other thing. So to me, here we get screwed again. The government pays people to work and to not to work. Isn't that interesting? While the rest of us, and so the supervisors might say, well, you didn't have to work. Oh yeah, people have to work, right? Because they have to pay their rent. They have to pay their utilities. They have to pay for their kids' medical bills. Maybe they had medical appointments. Like I called a doctor yesterday. I said, hey, and they were working, right? A surgeon. I said, hey, I need to check in. Can I get an appointment when I get back from Vietnam? He said, yeah, no problem. Stop in. But they were working, right? They didn't send anybody home. The surgeons, the doctors, they weren't sending people home. The clinics, the hospitals, the hardware stores. I think Home Depot open yet? Were you open? Did you work You worked yesterday. You were working here? Did you work out? You worked out at the, at Paw Farm?
Paw Foreman, yes.
You work at Paw Farm. So my point is that people have to live, right? Nobody has, food, stashed for a crisis like this. And stores are all open. Truckers, I just talked to Cage this morning on the phone. Cage is waiting for a truckload. He's a trucker in town, Cage Gill, and he helps us move a lot of humanitarian stuff. Anyway, Cage, he and I had talked. He was waiting to get loaded this morning. People are working. So why does the government get off? I mean, what, do they get treated special? Are they more vulnerable than other people? They got the best air conditioning systems. We got the new government center built not too many years ago. We got the courthouse. Anyway, on and on it goes. Okay. So we're finishing up our first hour here, and it's about 10 o'clock. So we're going to take a break, and we're going to be back for 2 more hours. Hang with us. All right, if you just popped in on us, you're wondering what are these guys doing out here? This is we're talking from Mount Huth out here in East Yuba County, up in the state of Jefferson to be, and we're here for 3 hours, and we're going to end at noon here this Saturday. We normally are live, but this is pre-recorded just a few hours earlier because we couldn't be here today together, and so calling in, you won't be able to talk live to us today, but we'll be we're doing some new stuff for you. So you got that lined up pretty much? You're working on it. Okay, no problem. It's okay. So I want to just give a shout out to the Yuba Sutter Constitutional Republicans. They're finished up the election here, and they had an election site over in Yuba City. But they're still sorting out what they're going to do from here on. They've been meeting at the fourth Thursday night of the month. The fourth Thursday night of this month, November, is Thanksgiving. So I'm confident they're not meeting that night. But I'm not sure. We'll give you further information on whether they're going to meet in December, on the fourth Thursday night. I'm not sure even what that date is. Let me see what date December is, fourth Thursday night, which would be the 28th. So I'm not sure whether they're going to meet that night or not, and they may return to their old stomping grounds at Church of Glad Tidings. But if you're curious about that and you want to get involved with a group of conservative people that aren't just Republican, but they're actual true conservatives, you might give Tammy Reichard a call. She's the chapter treasurer. And her number is 530-701-2845. I'll give you that again, Tammy, at 530-701-2845. If you want to see any change in California, you may want to give her a shout. So, okay, 701-2845. Are we about ready? No? Okay. So I want to intro this. A friend of mine, I have some of the listeners send me stuff that they think I might be interested in. And some guys up in Gridley do, a couple of guys. And I appreciate it because there's things that they see that I miss, or I'm not in the same stream that they are of information. But this is about a 30-minute documentary that is an amazing documentary about the difficulties that California is experiencing. And I normally don't play long clips like this, but I'm going to play a part of it, and then we'll break in and we'll come back. But here we go. It's about California.
One easy way to compare liberalism versus conservatism is to examine how governments have fared when executing policies according to those principles. So to better understand what happens when Democrats run your state, we'll examine the liberal stronghold of California. And by doing so, we may find some insight into whether or not the mantras that left-wingers chant actually perform better when put into actual practice. Here's what happens when Democrats run your state.
The new state report says about 110,000 Californians moved out of the state last year. As KCRA3 Sharikina Shams reports, the numbers tell a story about jobs and the economy.
Its population grew at more than double the national average.
until 1990. Then something changed. Last decade, 2 million more Americans moved out of California than moved in.
A new state report says more people left California last year than the number who came in, a net loss of about 14,000 people.
Between 2001 and 2009, almost 650 Californians migrated to states like Oregon, Arizona, Texas, Nevada.
Your special reports have looked at businesses, but what about just population numbers? California has always been seen as a magnet, people moving here from other states. Is that still happening?
Actually, the opposite is now true, where California has net exported close to 100,000 people. Most of them moved in, according to the latest census figures. The prime destination is Texas.
It may be a state of stunning beauty and wonderful weather, but people are still leaving California in droves. Some 3.5 million residents deserting this state in the last 30 years.
But why are people fleeing California? There are several reasons. The first being that liberal control means a big, over-regulating government.
California will probably go broke.
California is broke. It's not only broke, it's broken. Liberals broke it. Nobody can argue, no one with a shred of commitment to honesty can argue conservatives broke California. Liberal policies in a state where they can do whatever they want have broken the golden state, the state people went to get rich. You now go there to get poor. You leave to get rich.
It's California arrogance, right? It's what draws people to California in the first place, is this sense that nothing is really real here, and that's okay. I'll just close by saying this. Typical of the California attitude is, I got into a brief debate with a woman who was a Democratic local council person in Irvine, California. And she was saying, well, because we got in the middle of this, she said, if Republicans are really so great, how come California's doing so well? California is the 7th biggest economy in the world, and it's run by Democrats. And I said, it is the 7th biggest economy in the world. And before the Democrats got a hold of it, it was the 5th biggest economy in the world. and it takes a while to bleed out that much prosperity, but they're doing it. Everybody's leaving. Boeing left Washington for the same kind of reasons. We are the poorest state in the nation. By any reasonable accounting of assets and liabilities, California is the poorest state in the union. Debt is unbelievable. And nobody wants to look at the red ink on the spreadsheet. All they do is look at the black ink. And so more and more red ink builds up, and sooner or later, they're going to pay. We're going to pay.
And what's happening is that because of high taxes, big regulations, unhealthy lawsuit climate, and a lot of government spending, people are leaving the state.
In just this century, Texas has created more than 1 million new jobs. California's lost more than 500,000. From 2004 to 2010, 680,000 people moved from other states to Texas, a whopping 185,000 of them California.
Meanwhile, many California companies are thinning their ranks. Chevron is moving 800 jobs from their Bay Area headquarters to Texas. Waste Connections shifted more than 100 jobs to Texas from Folsom, and other California firms are also on the move.
While the Golden State taxes and regulates companies near to death. For example,
the average small business in California is hit for about $134,000 per year in compliance costs to comply with the regulations in the state of California.
Dozens of companies are considering packing up and leaving. Dozens already have.
Even as we've been here in California for a couple of days, we've heard about more businesses pulling up stakes right now.
The legislature passes, on average, around 900 bills a year. Laws. Here you go, Governor. 3 a day, or even 4 a day. Session. And the kind of laws that they're passing in California, they're saying you can't, as a parent, hire a psychiatrist to try to make your kid not gay. I mean, level of crazy specificity, increasing the penalties, the fines for throwing citrus onto a minor league baseball field. Seriously, that was a law passed a couple.
I mean, when the city council of San Francisco proposes to ban goldfish, you know you have an intrusive situation.
The fact of the matter is that people have too much space in their houses, and we could just share our space with other family members. We would reduce our housing needs right there. And I think the number of housing units needed is a lot less than people think, because the old standard for housing is basically circa 1980, when people all lived in their own independent apartments or independent housing units. There was no doubling up at that time. And that's probably never going to be seen again in America. We're always going to be We have assimilation going on in L.A. right now. Assimilation is a two-way street. And so we're all living to live like Asians with multi-generational families. That's the American way now.
In Texas is just a wonderful state. It's a wonderful state. We went to a little town in the middle of nowhere, and we were talking with some of the people there, and they were talking about how they were basically just able to build their houses without any state permitting, without any local permitting. They just go out and build a house. Like, that's America, man. I mean, that's awesome. In California, you have to get a permit to retile your bathroom. I mean, legitimately, you have to get a permit to retile your bathroom. In my house,
a good example is if you want to build a strip mall. It takes, just to get permission to break ground and start construction, it takes 4 to 5 months on average in Texas. It takes 4 to 5 years on average in California. And that's one of the things that helps drive up the cost of housing and business complexes and factories in California.
Companies leave for 3 primary reasons: high taxes, excessive regulations, and the threat of really ridiculous lawsuits.
And they are leaving for places like Arizona, a state that means business. Arizona's fast-track permitting allows certified architects and engineers in Phoenix to get building permits in a single day. By contrast, Dwayne Woods will tell you that California's process is painfully slow. As the former executive at Waste Management, the largest recycling company in the world, Woods moved his regional headquarters from California to Arizona.
We started trying to permit a major recycling facility in L.A. At an old landfill site, mind you. That site is still not permitted to this day.
How long has that taken?
Over 10 years.
And after a decade, there is still no facility in California. Yet it took just 2 years to build the same plant in Arizona.
If you took a whiteboard and said, how can we make it difficult? How many agencies can we layer on? California's as complex as it could be. It's not an employer-friendly state to that, and it's to that end, it's more difficult, definitely more costly to operate in.
Of all states, California ranks dead last for policy friendliness, with key negatives for high taxes, high workers' compensation costs, and high electricity costs.
All the green policies, essentially, renewable mandates.
Renewable mandates are for solar and wind and other things which are higher cost, and because California's imposed that on their energy industries, costs are higher in California than in Texas.
That's right, about 50% higher in California.
50% higher.
Yeah, and they're going up. That's the scary thing, is that they could go up even more.
Government at the state and local level consumes about 1/3 more of the economy in California than it does in Texas. And that, with that extra government, you have things like 1/3 of the nation's welfare recipients are in California, even though they only have 1/8 of the population. You have more regulations, more taxes, everything.
We have a graph of the welfare recipients, percentage of households receiving public assistance. Much higher in California than the U.S. average, and lower than average in Texas.
What you see is that the state with the highest poverty rate in the nation is California, higher even than the District of Columbia. And that should really be a warning or caution to progressives who maintain that this big government model is really the path to prosperity. We argue that it's entirely the opposite, that in fact Texas is a model for how America could be better run and there could be more prosperity by having less government.
California's had over 10% unemployment every month of Barack Obama's presidency until basically last November.
And it's still 3% higher than Texas.
Yes, and it's been higher in California than the national average every month since 1990.
There's been more job growth in Texas. Texas gained in the past 10 years more than 1 million jobs. California lost about 500,000 jobs.
But the Brown administration denies that California is bleeding jobs to other states.
Texas Governor Rick Perry taking a victory lap this week after Toyota announced it will move its national headquarters and thousands of jobs to the Lone Star State after 30 years in California. It's a big win for the governor, who has made it his mission to lure companies away from high-tax, high-regulation states. California Governor Jerry Brown, who's up for re-election this November, had this to say about the automaker's move.
We got a few problems. We have lots of little burdens and regulations and taxes.
but smart people figure out how to make it.
Notice California Governor Brown's rebuttal to companies leaving California in droves due to excessive overregulation by big government liberals. He says smart people figure out how to make it, which means there must be a lot of dumb business owners in California, because Spectrum Location Solutions found that about 9,000 companies moved their headquarters or diverted projects to out-of-state locations away from California from 2008 to 2015 due to the Golden State's hostile business environment. And they aren't all mom-and-pop shops. Companies like Toyota, Carl's Jr., and Nestle, among others, have found California to be bad for business. But it's not just high taxes and excessive regulations. Its anti-business sentiment has created the perfect breeding grounds for frivolous lawsuits. California ranks as the worst state in America for treatment of class action lawsuits, the worst for damages applied to lawsuits, the third worst in timeliness of decisions in the litigation of those lawsuits. They rank fifth worst in judges' competence and second worst in judges' fairness, according to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. California is perpetually ranked among the worst governed states in America and has more debt than any other state and the worst credit rating of any other state. But how do they rack up such massive debt? Where does all the money go? The first thing big government bureaucrats do with your tax dollars is give it to their own being other government workers and massive unions that are big donors to Democratic politicians.
Is that the Los Angeles City Council members are paid $178,000 per year?
They are the highest paid legislative body in the nation, John. We just had a councilwoman that Janice Hahn went to Congress, the House of Representatives, and she has to take a cut in pay. They make more money than United States senators for a Los Angeles City Council.
Los Angeles, each councilman is given a car?
They get a car that has a license plate that says exempt, so they can park in meters and they don't get tickets.
$178,000 per year in Los Angeles versus in Dallas, $37,000, San Antonio, $1,400.
California is not a right-to-work state. They have very powerful unions, especially government unions. They are to spend millions and millions of dollars to promote bigger government and higher taxes.
4 California cities have now declared bankruptcy, Stockton the biggest, and San Bernardino. The result isn't pretty. Some 50-year-old retirees were promised they can collect forever. Well, until they die, but actually after that too, because their spouse may collect after they die, and the money just isn't there. Politicians promised them much more money than the town had. So, do the people in San Bernardino realize that's the reason the town went belly up? No. One union blamed the mayor and former city manager for spending money on a downtown movie theater.
Yeah, the movie theater is nice, but it's nothing compared to the $45.8 million deficit that the city of San Bernardino is running. And by the way, when they filed for bankruptcy, they had $150,000 in the city bank account.
The San Bernardino politicians said, we didn't see it coming. How could they? They owed $46 million. They had $100,000 in the bank.
Yes, and they have payments that they're required to pay into CalPERS, $1.8 million a month. And they didn't see that coming. With $150K in the bank, nothing's going to cover these pension obligations. Not in San Bernardino, not in Stockton, not in Vallejo, not in Compton, not in any of these other cities in California that are simply failing.
California's also going bankrupt. $167 billion in debt. Are you kidding me? That is grossly irresponsible for a state with as many natural resources as California. I mean, these pinheads in Sacramento think they can just spend money and other people have to pick up the tab.
Tough times in Stockton, California, with that city, the largest one ever to file for bankruptcy. And city officials are saying it was tough, but necessary. Stockton is one of 3 cities now to declare bankruptcy in the state. According to Vice Mayor Kathy Miller, public safety employees were costing the city, on average, more than $150,000 each per year. We heard about that hefty benefit package there and for those employees. How did it get to that point where they were able to collect so much?
You know, it happened incrementally over about a 10-year period and during the 1990s. And Stockton's not alone in this. Cities all across our state, especially, really ramped up enhanced pensions and increased benefits. And one of the benefits that Stockton granted to its employees, which ended up really being the largest single problem that we have financially, is we granted free lifetime medical benefits to our retirees.
Wow.
The mayor of Stockton, who owns this balloon shop, thinks her city and her country
will find a way out of their current malaise.
I think we have a good future. I think we're still figuring out how we play that future, what role we have, and how we resume again our prominence in innovation and manufacturing and a lot of those industries. It's a matter of evaluating who we want to be when we grow up.
The mayor of Stockton is the owner of a balloon shop. That's right, a balloon shop. And after her incompetence and fidelity to the left-wing policies inevitably ends in failure, she says Stockton is still figuring out what they are, which is interesting because this is a city first established in 1850 and had a population of over 50,000 people by 1950, over 100,000 residents by 1970, and nearly 250,000 residents by the year 2000. And yet she says the city is still figuring out who and what they are. The left-wing state of California ended its 2014-2015 fiscal year negative $175 billion. California Democrats are so liberal with taxpayers' money, they'll spend it on just about anything, as long as it makes them look compassionate and pleases their voter base. In Richmond, California, the Office of Neighborhood Safety was paying young men not to kill each other, with a maximum of $1,300 per month not to kill someone, funded by taxpayers. California Democrats are now pushing legislation aimed at helping poorer families be able to take beach vacations. Assembly Bill 250 would direct the State Coastal Conservancy to develop new, low-cost accommodations and improve existing affordable accommodations with the goal of making a trip to the beach more accessible for families that don't have a lot of money. The city of San Francisco has implemented multiple government-funded projects to curtail the public health problem of feces and used syringes all around the city. And the liberal elitists who inhabit San Francisco says it's everyone else, the people inhabiting the non-coastal states, that are the idiots. People and businesses are leaving California because left-wing belief systems inevitably create a massive government with excessive regulations and overspending on anything that could win them a vote, but also through spending billions annually on illegal immigrants and horrendous public schooling systems.
California owes an astounding $167 billion, and it's running an annual deficit of about $9 billion, money that can never be paid back. And what is California getting for all that? High school graduation rate, 37 out of 50 states.
Businesswoman Lana Zweigart decided that placing her son in a crowded high school where many students do not speak English was simply not an option. Rather than pay the high tuition costs of a private school, Zweigart decided it was time to move her family and her company out of California. Her story is the story of middle-class Californians and business owners that have simply had enough of the declining quality of life and no longer have any faith that Sacramento and Washington will act to secure the border and protect American citizens.
I've been in California for 31 years. I have 2 children, and I have progressively felt the decline of where I live, within my business, within my family. Well, Pomona, when I first moved in, was a wonderful little small community, very family orientated. I can't go there any longer. With my surroundings of being bombarded by illegal immigration, schools, they're catering to the illegals.
Again, I think the primary message is that it is the obligation and mission of our public schools to educate all children, regardless
not illegals.
of immigration status. This is a right. These children have a right to an education.
Particularly the border crossing is dear to our heart. We have just recently funded a few projects specific addressing on the border crossing and to reduce the waiting time as cars coming in and to reduce the pollution. What? And we should ask for next question, please. We would like to give the opportunity to the LA downtown office folks to ask questions.
Communities that are sometimes threatened or intimidated by giving comment in a language that isn't as comfortable to them. So,
este foro va a ser en español y en inglés. En español vamos a hablar y en inglés. For in English, it's going to be in your headset. So this forum is in Spanish and in English. In English in your headsets. In Spanish, we're going to be speaking on the microphone.
We live in America. It should be in English.
All right, you're listening to a documentary about why what happens to a state when Democrats take over. It's about California. We're going to finish it on the backside of this break. So hang with us, and I'll introduce it again when we come back from this commercial break, okay? Be right back. This is Lou with Live with Lou, and we're here at the Mount Huth, sitting up here in the smoke today. And we've been listening to the last half hour. We're listening to a clip. It's a documentary or a collage of comments on the downfall of California. You may think, hey, what's wrong with California? Everything seems fine to me. I'll tell you, just a few years ago, I never thought I would never dreamed that I would know people, friends of mine, that have left, that would have got up and just moved their entire family and relocated and started over in another state. But many have now. And I want to read you a comment from a woman that immigrated to Venezuela. Venezuela at one time was one of the most prosperous countries in Central or South America, loaded with oil and resources. People would go there for their honeymoons. And I want to read you what this woman said. She said, I'm living on Margarita Island, which is an island state of Venezuela. Anyone wishing to see a socialist communist country in the making, come for a visit if you can get here. The dictator here digs his fingers into the citizens and the sustainability of the country a bit more each day. We are at this time dealing with shortages of most common items, no repair parts for anything, and power and internet service are almost things of the past. Right now, there is no internet service other than through cell phone service, which only works as a basic backup. Power is off from 6 to 9 hours a day. We'd love to have some of those screaming Antifa mental giants or liberal intellectuals come for a visit. They would never make it. Okay, so let's go back. Are we ready to go back? We're going to finish up this clip, and then we'll be live for the rest of the time. Okay?
It's going to be in your headset. So this form is in Spanish and in English. In English in your headsets. In Spanish, we're going to be speaking on the microphone.
We live in America. It should be in English.
More people here speak English and Spanish.
One of the primary reasons that I'm taking my family out of here is because of the public school system. And if I would have had to send my children to their neighborhood schools, we would have had to speak Spanish in order for him to go there. When we get things from the school district, it comes in Spanish. I speak English, I want things in English, and I demanded that our school not cater to Spanish speaking. They have to learn English.
California is ranked among the worst public schooling systems in America and is annually in the bottom 20% of schools nationwide. But the good news is, teachers in California are one of the highest paid in the nation. Despite California ranking 48th of 50 states in math and 49th in reading, the teachers are being compensated pretty well. In 1992, the LA Times wrote an article about A.G. Curry Middle School in Tustin, California, celebrating the diversity by flying 65 flags of students as home countries. The principal said he planned to turn Curry Middle School into a model multicultural school. By 2010, A.G. Curry Middle School was 88% Hispanic, and that same year the school scored a D- in math, a C in language, and a C+ in science for an overall grade of a D+. California hosts 12% of the population and has over 30% of the nation's welfare recipients. With so many leeches on the system, left-wingers have decided to keep them happy. They must spend more because that's the only way people will vote for them, if they get free stuff in return. California spends $859 million per year on imprisoning illegal immigrants. Los Angeles alone spends more than $1.6 billion a year on illegal aliens, $600 million on welfare, $550 million on public safety, $500 million on healthcare. In 2003, 70% of the 2,300 babies born in Stockton's San Joaquin General Hospital were anchor babies. By 2013, the city of Stockton was bankrupt. Protesters packed the San Joaquin County Board of Supervisors meeting demanding that vacant positions at the hospital to be filled immediately because it was so understaffed. Trauma patients were sometimes being directed to Modesto, California, which delayed them receiving medical treatment. San Joaquin General Hospital CEO said an increase in gunshot victims has led to the shortage, with 200 patients being treated per month as opposed to 110 patients per month in past years. Despite illegal immigration sucking money from California, delusional liberals in California say illegal immigration makes the state stronger. After several decades of Democratic control in the state legislature, California now faces an unfunded pension liability of no less than several $100 billion. The state is also experiencing unprecedented middle-class flight, skyrocketing housing costs that are 250% more than the national average. Businesses of all kinds have been fleeing the state due to everything from excessive regulations, high taxes, or mandatory $15 minimum wages. California has horrible schools and regularly among the highest unemployment rates in the country. From 2007 to 2010, the number of children living in poverty in California grew by 30%, and 1 out of 5 children in California grew up in poverty. This is what Democrats have done to California. But Democrats have solutions for their money woes. It's a plan that is a regular go-to for liberals when they overspend to try and win votes by giving away free stuff, and that plan is taxing the rich.
He's called for upping the top tax brackets in America to 80% or more.
The wealthiest 1%. I would like to tax them at higher rates across the board on their salary, on their investments, and also on what they're passing to the future generation.
Yeah, well, they just passed by a ballot initiative one of the largest tax increases in history.
Tax the rich.
They've increased taxes by $50 billion. So, yes, suddenly it's going to look a lot more balanced there. But they're also lying. I mean, they're talking about revenue projections that will not come true. It's an annual tradition in California. Your budget looks balanced in January when you propose it. And then when the revenues actually start coming in, you say, oh, there's a shortfall. And that shortfall could be $8 billion. It has been as high as $30 billion in recent years. We'll see that happen again.
So clearly, California has serious economic problems. The state has the lowest credit rating of any other state. It's falling deeper into debt. So is this just a reality that they need to face, that deep cuts need to be made because they can no longer spend beyond its means?
We should be getting a more equitable system of taxation and taxing the wealthier at rates that are commensurate with other states. We need to be able to raise revenue in an equitable fashion in the state. Californians actually pay a lower tax base than most other states.
Where the top marginal tax rate in California is what?
13.3%.
And in Texas?
0.
0. That would seem to be an advantage. That'll even get Freeman's attention. I think it'll get anyone's attention.
And California has had an issue with its revenue, that is raising enough revenue to provide the services that Californians need.
This is another part of the problem. Notice this college professor's explanation for the problem, that California has a revenue problem. By revenue, she means taxes. But California's problems are not because they don't tax enough or that they don't tax the rich their fair share.
That California has the most progressive tax system in the United States. We do ask those who make the most money to pay the highest percentage of taxes.
California is among the highest tax states in the country. California has the highest personal income tax of any other state in America, significantly higher than any other state. The Federation of Tax Administrators ranks California as the top taxer with a 12.3% income tax, and if you make over $1 million in the state of California, the income tax rate jumps to 13.3%, nearly 30% higher than the number 2 state of Oregon. The top 1% of earners in California account for over 40% of income tax revenue. California is 4th highest in the nation in per capita corporate income tax revenues. California is the highest sales tax than any other state. California is the highest gasoline tax than any other state. California even taxes carbon emissions. California's problems are not the result of not taxing enough or the rich not paying their fair share. California does not have a revenue problem. California has a spending problem. Turns out giving away free stuff to people in exchange for votes can be very expensive.
I think the politicians want to get reelected, and the state government workers want to get as much as they can before the whole house of cards comes tumbling down. The problem is California is Greece, the Greece of America. There are too many people riding in the wagon, not enough people pulling the wagon. Now they've raised taxes, so you're going to see the productive people leaving the state and more people living off the government, voting for more government, but sooner or later, nobody's there to pay the bills. It's too expensive to create jobs. It's too expensive to finance a bloated workforce. It's too expensive to maintain all these pensions. But by the time you reach that level, if more than 50% of the voters in your state are somehow riding on the wagon, are either government welfare beneficiaries, government workers, or the retired living off government, how do you ever change? And that's what makes me so pessimistic. A beautiful state that I think is being ruined by big government.
California has failing infrastructure all over, with an estimated $130 billion backlog in needed infrastructure repairs. California just passed another tax increase, a 12 cents per gallon gas tax and 20 cents per gallon on diesel fuel, while also increasing the vehicle licensing fee from $25 to $175 per year, depending on the value of your vehicle, the average fee increasing by $48 per year. California's general fund has increased by $36 billion over the past 6 years, and yet there's no money for infrastructure. The money they should have spent on infrastructure, they spent on their constituents and voters in the form of government handouts. The bad business climate created by liberals forces businesses to flee. With less jobs, unemployment rates become high. Importing immigrants from third world countries who are largely uneducated to unskilled and speak little to no English makes employing them difficult, so they live off the taxpayer. Never-ending welfare benefits given to the poor provide just enough to get by, and in return generate loyalty to Democratic politicians because the poor depend on them for their income. So voting Democrat is essential to their livelihood. Modern liberalism, as exemplified in the state of California, is a giant Ponzi scheme, which inevitably ends in financial collapse. And when that collapse happens, they won't say it's because of government. They will say it's because of capitalism and greed. And so in order to save us from greedy capitalists, we need more government control. In a previous video, I covered how liberals' so-called compassion destroyed the economy, and after it happened, they didn't attribute the failure to left-wing politicians implementing compassionate policies that ignore basic economic principles. They say it's because government didn't do enough, and that will always be the answer when Democrats in government ruin their surroundings. The Ponzi scheme is Democrats win votes by appealing to the emotions of the populace. They champion to help the poor, the sick, and people from third world countries, and the way they help them is by giving them free stuff: welfare benefits, free schooling, scholarships, free health care, increasing minimum wages, and appealing to each and every union, giving them more money, more benefits in exchange for votes. But all these promises cost money. But the government doesn't know how to make money. Government only knows how to take it. And as soon as their voter base wants something else, they are perfectly content to use your money in return for loyalty from their voters. And if you don't like it, you're a racist, sexist, homophobic, misogynist, ableist, Islamophobic, xenophobic bigot who hates the poor and sick. This is what liberalism creates. A system that rewards the unproductive at the expense of the productive. And with never-ending mouths to feed and votes to win, they make more promises that cost more money, and those who have the money and run the businesses that provide the jobs end up leaving, and then you have a failed state.
All right. Well, that's the end of that clip, and it was longer than normal, but I thought it had so much good information jammed together and all in context and relatable, because we just again had an election just a few days ago, and Californians pretty much said, tax us some more, right? Tax us some more. So before we get into more of that, I want to mention that we're on the air today and every Saturday because of some supporters. And I mentioned the Yuba Sutter Constitutional Republicans. They've been helping us. And also Dave Greenitz Construction. We play some commercials on the radio station for him. But I just want to give him a shout out because for 5 years now, Dave Greenitz Construction, they're located in Sutter County, but they work in a variety of counties. And Dave and his group primarily specialize in bathroom and kitchen remodels, and they do even entryway remodels and patio creation of cool patio systems. He has an amazing website, and on that website, DaveGreenitzConstruction.com, he has photo after photo after photo of amazing results, shots of bathrooms, kitchens they've done, sometimes before and after. None of those are borrowed from somewhere else off the internet. They're actually creations of that company. And the thing about Dave that I like is that he returns your phone calls immediately. And when he says he's going to be there, he actually shows up and gets the job done, right? And when they do the job, they actually clean up after themselves. It's an amazing thing. We call them independent contractors, but Dave is not independent in that sense. The other group that helps us is the Plumbing Doctor, and that's Ted Holmes. And the other day I was cleaning out a back sink. I have this sink on my back porch, and I had been cleaning up and cleaning taking the seeds out of some pomegranates because I like pomegranates, and so they stain the porcelain. So I thought, I'm about done with these pomegranates, so I was gonna scrub out the sink and get it nice and white again, and all of a sudden my feet was getting wet. I thought that's a bad sign. I don't know a lot about plumbing, but I think when the water is actually supposed to get out of the house, not like flood the house if you're turning on the water. So anyway, I talked to Susie over there at the plumbing doctor, and I think their number 671-9111, and she said, "Oh, Lou, I said, "I don't use a sink all the time, but the drain is gone. I need a new drain system." So anyway, the guys just showed up, and they were in and out of the house. Honestly, it must have just been a few minutes, and they had the thing all straightened out and done for me. So those are some supporters. Also, one of our supporter that's just kind of re-upped for a second year is Elite Universal Security, which is a Yuba County-based business, but they're located in Yuba, Sutter, Butte, and Shasta County, serving businesses and residents, trying to provide better security for them where the law enforcement is not able to help them. And so the security company provides people on site, on businesses, to keep people from harassing patrons to the business. They also provide patrol and even patrol for farms. So people, they're harvesting or they have equipment sitting out in the middle of a field or orchards with, they're bringing in walnuts and almonds are very expensive. And they patrol these to keep people from stealing the product as well as stealing the equipment. So Elite Universal Security, they also are looking for workers, good, responsible workers. And you don't need to know how to be a security guard necessarily. They will train you. And they have all kinds of classes. And you can go to their website. They have two websites, EliteUniversalSecurity.com, EliteUniversalSecurity.com, or their school site where they train you is API-Academy.com, API-Academy.com. And you can look on there. They have a whole schedule month by month of classes they're offering, but then they have all kinds of other classes. Like they have on the weekends, they'll have these concealed weapon permit classes and where you need to recertify at the range. They have all these classes, but they also have classes like pepper spray, handcuffing, taser, guard card training classes that they provide. The other thing that is really convenient is you can go get a live scan there. If you're needing to get a live scan to get cleared to do something, they can do that pretty much any day of the week. And as opposed to if you go to the sheriff's department, they have specific days, specific hours that may not be conducive to your schedule. So they have a taser class and pepper spray class coming up on the 17th of this month. I guess that's tomorrow. So it's on Saturday, I guess, right? So I don't know. You might want to check with them and see whether that's actually going on, because they needed at least a minimum of 3 people to teach that class. So you might want to call them at 749-0280 if you think, I'd like to take that class and learn how to use that and be able to buy some of that. So 749-0280, you can see whether that class is still scheduled, because some of these classes, they're automatic classes they do, like range days and concealed weapon permit training. Other classes, they'll offer them if they have enough people interested. So call them up, check it out. So Monty Hecker, who runs, is the owner-operator of Elite Universal Security, is a patriot, and he's also a very generous individual who helps a lot in conservative causes in the area, and also a benevolent guy in nonprofits. So recently sent a large check to TIP Trauma Intervention Program to help fire and law enforcement and the Bi-County ambulance medics in the hospital to help survivors after something really bad happens. So we thank him very much. We're very grateful that he supports the show here and the Trauma Intervention Program. So while I'm speaking about trauma intervention, before we get back into the material for the day, is that once a year we try to do a fundraising drive because trauma intervention is totally supported by the community. We don't get any government tax dollars. And so some of the emergency responders do help us through their own organizations, like their employee organizations, but that's their money, not your tax dollars. But once a year we get together, and this is the second year in a row we've simply asked people to help us. In previous years, we had a dinner that the fire department in Yuba City helped us with, some of the firefighters. But some of those guys, as life goes on, things change, people retire, people move. So we lost our firefight support. The guy that was our main cook and coordinator over there moved to Roseburg, Oregon. And then we lost our venue. Anyway, it became less profitable to put all the work into a dinner fundraiser. So we've simply gone back to people who believe in what we do, believe in a nonprofit that's grassroots based, not just another organization mooching off the government, and believe in the mission of TIP, which is to provide emotional and practical support during a family's worst possible day of their life. So we respond 24 hours a day, every day of the year, to any type of call that emergency responders need a hand with, whether it's a hostage situation, a drowning, a car accident. Kids need to be watched over for a bit until while relatives are sought out after their mom or dad ends up in the hospital for some reason. We just do all kinds of things, and we provide all our services free of charge. Like right now with the current fire situation, we're serving individuals and providing resources, literature, etc., to help people get back on their feet. And so if you want to help with that, there's a number of ways you can do so. You can go on our website, yubasuttertip.org. The other day, Dr. Cassidy, who's a supporter of TIP, went on there and donated money through PayPal. There's a number of ways, yubasuttertip.org. You can also go to gofundme.com/TIP 2019. I'll give you that to you again, gofundme.com/TIP 2019. You could also just simply, some people say, Lou, I just want to make it simple, I'll send you a check. And if you send us a check, that means 100% of the money actually gets to us. So you can send us a check to TIP at P.O. Box 645, Marysville, California. TIP Box 245, Marysville, California 95901. So the unique thing about our organization right now, no one is paid, and all the money goes to train new people to go out on these calls and to provide resources to victims. So we're providing hundreds and hundreds of these after the fire books to help fire victims from the fire up in Paradise, free of charge. We've never charged for anything we give away. We've also directed them, helped through the Church of Glad Tidings, coordinating with the Church of Glad Tidings to get a free particle mask through the Yuba City Fire Department. If you need particle masks, you can go to any station, Yuba City Fire Department, 5 stations in the city there, and pick up a free particle mask or masks. I think we provided about 5,000 masks to them. And there's more where that came from. So, if you'd like to support us, I know there's lots of great organizations, not trying to hog all the dollars, but we spend, we're a lean and mean organization. We don't pay any electricity bills. We don't pay any rental bills. We don't have, an office. We operate, we divide up the office responsibilities from our homes with technology today, computers and, cell phones. We can operate without having a central office, which that means more and more of your dollars. Hardly any money. Certainly we have some office costs like printing. We print a lot of stuff. We hand out a lot of stuff. So we have paper costs, printing stuff. We have computer costs. We have those type of costs, but, you're not paying payroll costs and OSHA costs and, all the costs with the state of California. We avoid all that. All the money is going to help people like the fire victims up here at Camp Fire. So you can help us out if you will, and we would really appreciate it, and all the money is used very wisely. All right, so we're getting close to the end of this hour, and so we'll make a couple more comments. So I want to thank also Bi-County Ambulance, who has been a huge help to us. Bi-County Ambulance serves Yuba and Sutter counties. Some of these counties have a hospital-based ambulance system, and sometimes there's a government ambulance system. Like they'll tuck the ambulance system in with the fire department and some agencies around the state. But in this county, for as long as I can remember, we've had Bi-County Ambulance, who is based out of Sutter County, their office in Sutter County, but they serve Yuba and Sutter County, and they do some mutual aid. For instance, they had the other night we had Bi-County Ambulance do some training for trauma intervention, and Ron Welsh was over at the our training program a week ago Thursday. And they, at that time, that night, they had 5 ambulances up with the campfire operation, assisting other ambulance companies with rescue efforts, et cetera. So Bi-County Ambulance is a huge partner of TIP. They're some of our leading Ride-Out Hospital, Ride-Out, or as they call it now, Ride-Out Adventist, or Adventist Ride-Out, or Adventist. They've been some of our leading supporters. Bi-County Ambulance has been one of our leading supporters for a number of years now. So we're very grateful to all these people that are helping us. Alpha Sigma Iota, a sorority of ladies, gave us $1,500 this week. They've been a huge supporter for, I think I saw maybe 4 years now. And they're just ladies that want to do a good thing for the community, and they go out and have a run, half marathon, 5K, 10K, happens in May out in Sutter during Sutter Buttes Day. It's a beautiful run around the Buttes, and they raise money and turn around and just give it out to about 5 or 6 organizations each year that they think are doing a good job for folks. So you might put that, if you're a runner, you might think of that date. I think it's May, early May. I have it somewhere here on my calendar, but it's early May, like May 4th, maybe the first Saturday in May. But it's Sutter Buttes Day. They have a parade out there, but they also do this run that's put on by this sorority. And so you might put that on your calendar. And it's they were telling me last night that it's one of the runs in California that's growing. A lot of the runs have been around for many years, and maybe the luster is off so many people running in these races, but they say people tell them their race is growing. So we'll be right back, and we have 1 more hour to go. So if you'd like to stay with us, you can hang one more. You're listening to Live with Lou on the Patriot, KMYC 1410 AM and 104.3 FM. Well, before we move on, I want to mention again that we're still in the middle of this fire. The other day, I think they said they were 40% contained? Have you heard that? The other day, I don't know what it is today, but when I got up this morning, it was still smoky. Been sitting inside here for an hour or two, so I'm not sure how it is right at the moment. But there's still trouble, and there's a lot. The fact is, even if they got 100% containment today, they say, I think, did I hear this right? That 10,000 buildings burned? 10,000, over 10,000 now. And I don't know how many of those were homes, but so those people, even if all the firefighters go back to their station, clean up, restock, we have thousands of people that have no place to go. Their home's gone. It's not even partially gone. It's gone, 100% gone. I saw some drone shots that it just looks like some of these other neighborhoods. Now, if you wonder, I was thinking the other day, the crises we've had recently in Northern California, the spillway crisis that they're just finishing up. They spent nearly $1 billion. I want you to think about it. The neglect of the Oroville Dam that put at jeopardy millions of people if that were to break free, and it almost did, where the spillway gave way, right? You remember those shots? That happened for one particular reason. Democrat legislators ignored the Department of Water Resources in the state of California, did a lousy job of monitoring and repairing and maintaining that dam that was built in the 1960s. Cheap legislators and a government that was not doing its job, but instead was giving their money to illegal aliens and supporting people coming up here and dropping babies up here from other countries, and just us paying for everything, as you heard on the documentary we played earlier, while putting at danger the citizens of the state of California. And so we nearly flooded. And then after that, we had fire after fire after fire. And it's interesting, I worked for as a volunteer for Yuba City Fire for a number of years, maybe like 15 or 20. And I noticed Yuba City Fire, and I've noticed other fire departments as well in the area because I worked with all of them in Yuba Sutter counties with trauma intervention. They are very cautious about safety, coaching people and businesses on how not to do things that are hazardous, running cords in a weird manner, or not cleaning up around machinery and where things could spark and flash into a fire. And then every year around town where there are vacant lots or open areas, they make sure that those areas are trimmed and brushes removed, and where if a fire were to start, it's not really going to go anywhere. They abate the area, that garbage stuff, right? Very careful around these residential areas or inhabited areas. But it's fascinating that the Democrats, controlled by environmentalists, said forbid people that have been managing the forest for many, many years. Our forefathers determined that if you manage the forest, if you thinned it, if you cut out trees here, there, and cut out dead trees that act like a matchstick, and you remove the thatch around the shrubs and thatch around the bottom, if you allow animals to graze and keep those things chewed down, the same way in open range area, when you allowed sheep to keep things trimmed down, if you had a fire started by, say, lightning or some other reason, it didn't go very far, and it didn't create these catastrophes, complete catastrophes, where you burn up part of Yosemite or you burn up entire towns. It goes nuts in a rural area and then burns right through an entire residential area. In other words, all fires will never be stopped from starting, prevented from starting, but you can stop how far they go. And you can see that in the Yuba Sutter area. In fact, in my downtown Marysville area, we got some lots that I've been talking to the city about that need to be abated. In other words, they need to talk to the owners about trimming it up, right? So if it gets started, it's not going to have embers landing on the rooftops of houses and start a bunch of fires in the city of Marysville. Now, it's interesting that once we get out of the urban areas, we just lose our minds and just say, for instance, the one thing that happened, and I'll come back to this before we end, is up in the North California area in Southern Oregon, the environmentalists a number of years ago made a big deal about an owl called the spotted owl, and said that the reason that the spotted owl was, if we don't take care, the spotted owl would become extinct. And it's all because that we can't allow timber fallers or timber companies to encroach in these areas, because the spotted owl will get all upset, won't mate, and won't take care of business, and will cease to exist. So they shut down all the timber industry in the north counties of California. And so what happened when they shut down the timber industry, towns began to fail up there because they were dependent. That was the jobs that those towns served. But they later found out, although you probably never heard this on the news, that instead of timbermen or women, causing problems with the spotted owl. It was instead a cousin of the spotted owl called the barred owl, B-A-R-D owl, which was a bully owl, and that owl would go in and crash the nest of the spotted owl. So the spotted owl has not been able to flourish, even though no human has been going into those forests, unless they burn up now because they're just mismanaged. You know, it's kind of like saying in your own home, we're going to stop cleaning our home, and we think that's healthier. Stop cleaning our home, stop painting our home, stop repairing our home, and we'll see how that works out. It's just it's idiocy is what it is. So anyway, I'm going to tell you a story in a bit about Loyalton, where the article I read about Loyalton is it blamed the failure of Loyalton, which is a small community in Sierra County, I think. They had to shut down the whole city because they ran out of money. And so this article blamed, and this is typical Democrat propaganda, blamed the failure of Loyalton on bad management. Let me tell you why Loyalton failed. It failed because environmentalists shut down the timber industry. That's just simple. That's it. The environmentalists have also created this thing where they want all these truckers to convert over to a different type of system in their trucks, motor engine systems that cost them $15,000 per truck, and it's running truckers out of the business. So anyway, I wanted to give you a little background about that, but I wanted to, before I go on and talk about CalPERS a little bit, I wanted to give an update on local elections. We're still counting votes, and we won't be counting anymore for a few days because for some reason, government employees are more important than any other employees in the county. So they've given them as much time off as they need with pay. So, but be that as it may, the latest figures on local measures in Yuba County was that Measure K, which is an illegal measure promoted by the Board of Supervisors to raise taxes by 1% in Yuba County, and illegally funded with probably around $200,000 of our tax money. That now is leading and has been leading from the beginning, but has a few hundred vote lead, which would mean that they think that's going to mean that it can go into effect. But according to Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, who helped pass the propositions, Prop 218 and Prop 10, to make it illegal to fund the government to fund a one-sided issue like this with our tax money, and also it made it illegal to pass an issue like this that is primarily to fund public safety. They needed a 2/3 vote instead of 50% plus one. The government of Yuba County says, no, we're going to promote it like we want. We're going to use your tax money, and we're going to pass it with 50% plus one. Now, this is why democracy was not the goal of the Founding Fathers, because if we decided that we're going to vote on an ethnic group to eliminate, and let's say we were going to vote on whether or not that Mexicans were problems. Now, you're probably getting sensitive right now, and you're getting sweaty palms because I'm getting into this. But if I said Jews, you wouldn't get sweaty at all. If I said we're going to take a vote to see whether Jews could remain in Yuba and Sutter County, and if they remained, we would incarcerate them or kill them. Jews. You remember Jews, right? The Holocaust. So if we took a vote and we got 50% plus one person of all the people in Yuba and Sutter County to vote, we want to eliminate Jews, right? We don't do that in America because we have a constitution that overrules that and says, no, that would violate the Constitution if you did that right there, right? So I could say we want to eliminate blacks or we want to eliminate Mexicans. Now, some of you liberals get all nervous when I say that, like, how dare you talk like that way? Honestly, you liberals are killing Mexicans and blacks all the time by abortion, and you're targeting them with Planned Parenthood, and you're just too hypocritical and too dishonest to admit it. So what we have here with Measure K, which was a desperate measure, which is it isn't unique to Yuba County, all up and down California, because of a corrupt pension system, paying government employees not only to work with great health benefits, Cadillac health benefits, but carrying on those benefits till the day they die, which is totally impossible to fund that. And no one in the state has been able to fund that properly. So what happens is, it's kind of like buying a car. You see people driving up and down the street in brand new cars, and you think, wow, that guy works at the same place I do. How can he afford a car? And I can't afford that car. Well, the difference is you pay cash, and he put a little bit down or did a zero down, and he's paying payments. So you both are driving the same car, and he looks like he owns it. You look like you own it, but really you're an owner, and he's borrowing other people's money, right? So what's happening here is politicians have made all these fantastic promises to government employees and said, we got you. For instance, we have a current sheriff in Yuba County, Wendell Anderson. He just was elected. And, but we have, because of modern American medicine, these other sheriffs that served before Wendell Anderson, I think there's 4 or 5 of them, all are still living. And they're having a good time out there. They're healthy. They're doing good. I think there's Miller. There's Sheriff Durfer. There's Sheriff Tyndall. And the female, Sheriff Black. Sheriff Black, all those are still living. So we're paying in Yuba County, let's see, Black's 1, Durfer, Tyndall, Miller, Wendell. That's 5 sheriffs we're paying for out of our taxpayers. Now, you think we can do that? You think, oh, well, no, we've paid Sheriff Durfer, and then he retired, so we shouldn't be having to pay him anymore. Like for me, when I quit work at Glad Tidings, they didn't have to pay me anymore. And the money that I made during the time I worked at Glad Tidings, I set aside some of that money so I could live on that when I quit working for Glad Tidings, right? But it's different now with public employees. The money, and particularly when it's not fully, they say, well, we can't afford to fund. We don't have enough money to fund the promises we made to Mr. Durfer, Mr. Tyndall, Miss Black, Mr. Miller. We didn't have enough money. So we have to take that out of the general fund. So we're paying for Miller, Black, Durfer, Tyndall, and now we're paying for Anderson because he actually gets up and goes to work every day. The other guys go down and have coffee somewhere, have a good time, right? It's called retirement. And so it's just not fair. And it's crazy. Only in a socialist government, the term connect the dots. They do not ever connect the dots. They just go out and do stuff and hope it all turns out. And then when it doesn't turn out, then they blame capitalism. Did you know that? And so Measure K is just when the Measure K promotion happened over the last 8 months, you never heard them mention one time pensions, did you? But that's primarily what this is going to fund is pensions, because they can't pay the pensions. Now Robert Bendorf uses euphemisms, right? It's kind of like saying, well, you want to cut apart a baby, or burn them to death with a saline solution, or stab them as they come out of the womb in the back of the neck. It's called a partial birth abortion. But they called that Planned Parenthood, right? Doesn't sound as bad when you say Planned Parenthood, right? Or every child, a wanted child. And you hear somebody in the back stabbing, stabbing the back of the neck. So Robert Bendorf says, we're making more money. Robert Bendorf is the county administrator in Yuba County. He says, we're bringing in more revenue, but the cost of doing business is going higher. Now, they use these terms like we use in the private sector, cost of doing business, but the government doesn't produce anything. They don't produce any goods and services that can be sellable. They just create a bureaucracy, and then you have to pay for it. They use our tax dollars. Then they say, well, we're just like Marysville right now is talking about raising all their fees, because they say, you'd think, well, I thought I paid taxes. I thought that's what the taxes are paid for. But that's just for them to breathe. But if they do anything, then you have to pay for that a second time. Like if you go in to get a permit, you say, I don't want to get a permit, but you're holding a gun to my head to say, I got to get a permit. Like I just got Rick over in Hageman, you know. He sent me a picture of the DMV. He's in the DMV over there. And he sent me a picture on my message. He said, Lou, here's the DMV in Hageman. And so he says, here's one side where you get the driver's license, and here's another side of the DMV, a beautiful building inside, and there's another side where you can register your car. There was one person in the entire DMV in each side, 2 people, and he was going to be next. And he sent me, and we're in California, we have lines after, you know what they look like as soup lines from the Depression, right? It looks like soup lines from the Depression. So Measure K is losing, and that means the county thinks that when it is certified that Measure K has won, I may have said Measure K is losing. Measure K is winning. That means the county supervisors think, oh, we won this, dude. Good, like we got this, right? But Howard Jarvis says it's illegal. So we'll see whether there's going to be attorney take the case to contest it in court. But the other thing that is actually leading finally, and this surprised me, is Measure J, which is going to raise $72 million to waste over there at Marysville Joint Unified School District. And the payback on paying back that $72 million will be like 150 some million to pay that back. Would you go out and buy a car? No, my dad would just drop dead again. He's already dead, but he'd drop dead over again. If I told him, Dad, I'm going to go out and buy a car on time, and it's a $5,000 car, but I'm going to end up paying $10,000, he would like pee his pants and then poop them too. He would like have a total fit. He said, Lou, you're crazy. You're going to pay double for a car that's worth half? That's stupid, Lou. But that's what we do in the government. And then here's the other deal that is really a ripoff. Did you know that for every dollar you pay in a school construction, 30% is totally wasted? It's forced where you're kicking money into the unions. 30% because of mandated wages. Isn't it interesting? It's called free enterprise, but when the government gets involved, they want to tell you how to do everything. Now, if they want to make the plans, this is how we're going to build this school, that's fine. But you know that in the private sector, the same exact school building with all the same benefits, with all the same bells and whistles, would cost 30% less in the private sector than it does in the public sector because they got to pay wages according to the Davis-Bacon Act. Look it up on Wikipedia if you don't know what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about a new plate over at Lumberjack Restaurant, the Davis-Bacon Act. I'm talking about a racist act that we now kick money into unions. And so that's why I'm against bonds for schools. Is in the state of California, you got to follow the Davis-Bacon Act, and we're wasting 30% of every dollar that we give them to support building a new school. We could build 30%. In other words, another way to look at it is we could build 30% more classrooms than we do right now because of the waste of this Davis-Bacon Act mandate. So we're coming right back. We got half hour. I'm going to talk about Loyalton when I come back. The little town of Loyalton ripped off the retirees, and I'll tell you why.
The Territorial Dispatch paper is a weekly and can be obtained free at distribution or by mail through subscription. It's the only locally owned and operated newspaper in the region. The paper is the rest of the story. And also check out the E-Territorial. It's an online version of the Territorial Dispatch, which features local news and events for the Yuba Sutter, Colusa, and Nevada County areas. You'll also find daily and breaking news updates, current traffic, and weather information, along with a calendar of local events. Visit the E-Territorial at eterritorial.com.
Did you know that Article 4, Section 3 of the U.S. Constitution lays out the framework for the state of Jefferson's plan to split California? A state can be formed from the land within another state if the state legislature and Congress approve it with a simple majority vote. 51% is all it takes. Your vote doesn't count in Northern California. California is broken and the time has come for 51. Please visit SOJ51.net and donate now to show your support.
Right, this is Lou Benninger. We're going to work towards winding down here to noon, where Sports Talk folks will come on and answer all your questions. You'll be able to call in, talk to them, and chat about your favorite teams and all the controversy around them. But I wanted to finish up with some comments about the CalPERS, the pension system of the state of California. Similar systems are had by other states around the country. They're not working out. But since we're here in California, and how the pension system goes is having a massive effect on every town, city, and major metropolitan area in the state, because the promises made by politicians to union workers cannot be kept. We don't have the finances to keep them. So they call them unfunded liabilities. If you don't know the term liability, in accounting, it just means you owe some money. Like if you buy a house, the liability is the amount you still owe on it. The liability could be how much your PG&E bill is. The liabilities those are the payables, things you need to pay. So when they say unfunded liability, that means that there's no money set aside. They say we're going to pay your pension costs, but they don't have the money to set aside all those monies to cover that person for the estimated time that they'll live on this earth. So therefore they call it unfunded liability. There's no money to fund it. So what happens is when they are demanded, the CalPERS, when they run short of money to care for, say, Yuba County or Sutter County's retirees, then they go back and say, we don't have enough money to cover that with the amount that you've given us, so you need to give us some more. And then they assess them a certain amount that more out of, and it comes out of the general fund. The general fund is the fund where they can use that money for a lot of different things. Some monies that counties and cities get are mandated to be spent for a specific cause. But general fund gives them a lot of flexibility how to use that money. So when you find your roads, like in the city of Marysville, you almost need a four-wheeler anymore in the city of Marysville. But the roads and the infrastructure of the city deteriorates. Things fall apart, and they just remain. Like, for instance, in the city of Marysville, you'll see grass and weeds growing up in cracks. You'll see big chunks of asphalt gone. You'll see places where there's been some underground work done. It's all sunk down. You got a dip in the roadway. It just doesn't get taken care of. So what's happening is you give money to government and for services like fire and police, or you don't have enough police officers, or you don't have enough resources. So you're short on police officers, you're short on patrol. And why? Because that money has been promised to people that now have retired, and they never did set the money aside because they promised things. It's kind of like saying to someone, you want to buy their car and I'll pay you on time, but then you miss payments. You get behind. You have the car, you have full use of the car, but it's your friend and it's just a gentleman's deal and you just cannot pay it. It's not funded. You're just kind of scrambling around trying to get the money. So you rob Peter to pay Paul, so to speak. So there's this little town up in Sierra County by the name of Loyalton. And Loyalton had some lumber mills that were located thereby. and timber operations, and the taxes that those mills paid and the people that they hired who paid taxes, that funded this little town of Loyalton. But because of the environmentalists, they eventually shut down the timber industry, which then shut down the lumber mills. And so there was no money coming in to run the city government. So eventually there was a handful of employees, and some of them retired, and they were getting their CalPERS checks each month. But then Loyalton City Council said, listen, we just don't have the money to pay into CalPERS anymore. So they talked to CalPERS, and CalPERS said exactly what they told Oroville a couple of years ago. The leaders of Oroville, the town just to the north of us in Butte County, they went down and met with CalPERS in a public meeting and said, please, we can't afford to keep our police force happening because we can't pay the CalPERS debt that you keep asking us to pay more and more money. And they said to them, sorry, go back home and figure it out yourself. But this is what you owe. You better pay. You got no recourse. Or if you want to get out of the CalPERS system, then we're going to charge you everything we think you'll ever owe to us. You have to pay it up front. That's the way the system works. So Oroville went back and they tried to get a 1% sales tax increase passed a year or so ago. That failed. So just recently on November 6th, they finally got their 1% passed. And what's it for? They say it's for police and fire, but what it is to pay the unfunded debt they owe the state of California, CalPERS. So back to Loyalton, what happened is environmentalists shut down another industry. It's not the only industry. They want to shut down the oil industry in California, the mining industry in California, fishing industry in California. They want to shut down grazing in open lands. They don't like that either, even though that's keeping forest fires down. They don't want us to be in the forest, to even hang out in the forest and explore. They can't even do that. So 3 retirees from the tiny Sierra County town of Loyalton filed a lawsuit in September, 9 months after the city cut off. What was happening is CalPERS cut these people's pensions to almost nothing. So the city then turned around and said, listen, we couldn't pay the CalPERS. That's why they cut you off. So now we're going to, out of the little money we have at the city level, we will supplement. And so then the city finally ran out of money itself, and they couldn't even supplement. So John Cousins, 57, says we haven't got paid a dime, and he had worked for the city for 20 years. The lawsuit alleges CalPERS and Loyalton negligently defaulted on their obligations to fund pensions promised to the retirees. That makes sense, doesn't it? Loyalton promised, the politicians of Loyalton promised the employees they would do this. And CalPERS said the same. But the fact is, Loyalton stopped paying into CalPERS because they went broke. And when people say, well, it was bad management on behalf of the city, no, not really. They made those promises back when they had a robust timber industry, which was robust all throughout Northern California. And then some environmentalists said, you got to let the trees burn up, right? Dead trees remain. You can't go in and harvest anything. You're going to disturb that owl. So therefore, the only thing that can disturb the owl and get away with it is an act of God, as they call it. You know, they always blame all the bad stuff on God, right? All the bad stuff. So if it's a fire or a tornado, right, or a whole sinkhole happens, that's an act of God. So they blame God for anything bad that happens. And so, Loyalton ran out of money. It wasn't bad management. They just, it's kind of like if the environmentalists convinced the legislators to cut off water to our farmers in Yuba and Sutter counties, we would also go broke. Hello? They did that down in the Central Valley, you know. If you drive down I-5, and as you're driving down, if you look to the left, you'll see hundreds of thousands of acres of dead ground. It's just dead because one judge fell in love with the small fish, and he cut the water off to all those, and they just went in and cut all the trees, shoved them out, and it's just fallow land now. Fallow for you and Oliver and Linda is it just lays without any use. It's just a mess, right? So the lawsuit is going to happen in Sierra County, and so CalPERS in November 2016 voted to reduce the benefits it pays to Loyalton's handful of retirees, and it totally blew their minds. It blew people's minds all over California because they said, say what? CalPERS can, like, if Marysville goes bankrupt, for instance, Marysville just got a 1% tax passed, and they think that's going to solve their CalPERS problem, but it's not. It's only going to temporarily solve it. In fact, some people believe in the county of Yuba, if for some reason this, I keep wanting to call it not Measure K, but Special K, like the cereal, Special K. If the county of Yuba gets this tax to stick with only like a 51% win or 52% win on it, that's only going to supplement the CalPERS for a couple of years, and they're going to be back to same old problem, and they're going to have to come back and say, well, you know, we need another 1%, and they're going to have another tax on top of that. In fact, the city of Marysville is already talking about adding another tax because they're already looking forward to the day that this 1% tax they have added is going to expire, and they want to add another tax. So the article here said Loyalton is one of hundreds of California cities that contract with CalPERS to provide pensions for their employees and retirees. CalPERS invests money from the cities to fund their retirement plan and distributes the benefits to retirees. That sounds simple, doesn't it? The problem is that CalPERS are run by the union, and it's corrupt. It's illegal. It's criminal. And they have lost money. And all their predictions on how much money they need from counties was dependent on earning 7% a year off $300-some billion that they invest. But they hardly ever earn that much money. So therefore, when they don't earn that much money, they don't have that much money. And so then they have to come back to the counties and the cities and say, hey, we didn't do so hot, so we need you to pony up some extra money, right, to help us out. So it's kind of like you send your kid to the store and you have him you give him $40 and you give him a big old grocery list, and he gets to the store and he calls you back and he said, hey, I got the list, but there's not enough money to pay for it, right? There's not enough, I need another $10, Mom, and you don't have a way to get it to him, right? So in 2017, CalPERS reduced pensions for almost 200 more former local government workers when the Los Angeles County organization that employed them also defaulted on its retirement bills. So there was an agency in Los Angeles County that said, hey, we're done. We're closing our doors. And, you can't get, as they say, you can't get blood out of a turnip. That's what somebody said. I don't know why they said that, but they said it one time, right? So, anyway, Loyalton has problems, and the reason I'm talking about it is because they're no different than Marysville, Yuba City, Nevada City, Grass Valley, Oroville, Chico. Everybody has the exact same problem, and it does not come down to mismanagement. Here's what it comes down to. It comes down to a bad pension idea. It's a Ponzi scheme. Charles Ponzi, look him up. It's a real cool article in Wikipedia or wherever. Charles Ponzi said, listen, he talked to his friends. He said, if you'll give me your money, I'll invest it and I'll give you back like 100% interest or something. In other words, it was a bizarre, too good to be true story because it was too good to be true. And so the first people that invested, the very first people got back just what he said because he didn't ever invest the money. He got new money. There were always new investors. So he kept taking the new investors' money and giving it to the old investors, right? So you're dependent upon new investors, because he never did invest the money. He didn't know Jack Diddley how to invest money. So this is a Ponzi scheme, this CalPERS, because they cannot generate enough money. And what's happened is the politicians, it's not bad management so much as politicians filling their own pockets, getting their way by getting union support for them running for office. And then they turn around and giving the unions what they want. And then the unions turn around and give the politicians what they want. And then the politicians turn around and give the unions what they want. It's what they call incest. Political incest. And then, but all these promises and payments that these people are making in this cycle are all being made by people like you and me who are taxpayers that go out, get up every day, hose off the front porch, clean the car, get your kids to school, try to keep them off drugs, go pay your rent, pay all your expenses, try to keep your nose clean, stay off any substances, stay out of the neighbor's bedroom, behave yourself, and pay your taxes, right? The taxpayer never gets to vote on whether to raise these pensions or not. All you need in a board of supervisors or city council is 3 out of 5 to say yes, and it's done. And that means for years and years and years and years and years, just like right now we have, I think, 5 sheriffs that are retired and just fishing and driving around, checking things out and having coffee and eating eggs. They have 5 of those people that we're paying pensions to out of the current general fund. Plus, we're paying Wendell Anderson over in Yuba County to be our sheriff, right? It's a goofy system. It's a system that cannot work. It's kind of like saying you go into the business and you want to go buy oranges. You go buy oranges as cheap as you can, and then you bag them, and you sit on the side of the road and people drive by and pull up and pick them up. But you end up making a miscalculations, and you're actually selling oranges cheaper than you're buying them. And pretty soon you think, hey, wait a minute, I can't even keep gas in the car, right? Because you're going backwards. And that's what this pension system is, it's going backwards. The Loyalton people said the city simply didn't fund CalPERS, and as a result, or this is the Seth Weiner. Oh, Weiner again. We got all these Wieners. Seth Weiner, the attorney. I wouldn't even hire a person, Seth Weiner. I wouldn't hire a guy like that. I think these Wieners are pedophiles, aren't they? Did you know that Uma Abedin, who was the sidekick of Hillary Clinton, she married a pedophile, and Clinton had a rapist. Hold that thought, man. Those are a couple screwy gals. The city, he says, Seth Weiner, he said the city simply didn't fund CalPERS. Who would argue with that? They ran out of money because the environmentalists ran them out of business. You know something? Here's the weird thing about Democrats. I had a guy that moved into Morningstar, the commune, years ago. He was in the Bronx. He came out here, he'd never eat a taco in his life. Right now, everybody knows what tacos are, but back then in the 70s, I guess they didn't happen back in New York, right? But one day, he didn't even know, and he thought milk was something that was manufactured. He didn't know it came out of a cow for some reason. And these Democrats, they have no idea that the money that funds a city comes from successful business people, right? And people working and making a living and actually producing something from a living. Do you know I have people, they used to harass me when I worked raising pomegranates at Glad Tidings, and people would run around in circle, drive around the pomegranates and watch me, and they'd have little clipboards and binoculars and stuff. And they never created anything anybody could eat or use or clothes anybody could wear. All they did, they were just little Nazi bureaucrats, and they never contributed anything to society except harassing me, right? And so Democrats don't get it that when businesses finally leave or quit operating, there's no food on the shelves anymore. And so people down in Venezuela, if you look at a store right now, there's no food. There's shelves. There's lights, but there's no food on the shelves because the dictator has run all the businesses off, and people now leave. The people that can leave will leave. Right now, I think in the last 12 months, 150 or 60,000 people have left. You think, who are those people? Are they deadbeats? Are they illegal immigrants? Are they welfare babes? No. The people that are leaving, they're not the rich people either. The rich are sticking around because they can handle the taxes. They can get around the taxes. And the rich are sticking around. And the people that can't speak English are sticking around. The people that can't, they don't have any skills are sticking around. The people that are medically screwed up are coming in the country are sticking around. The people that are leaving are the people that are middle class people that have jobs like construction, all kinds of blue collar jobs that pay taxes, and they just can't handle the high expenses of living in this state anymore. They pay some taxes. Like you heard on that documentary that the rich are paying the bulk of the taxes, but that doesn't mean that other people aren't paying taxes. For instance, when I say taxes, a lot of you think of income taxes, but we pay tons of other taxes on everything that you ever consume, use, like my phone. I pay a tax on my phone. PG&E, pay a tax on PG&E. Cal Water, pay a tax on that. Anything I do, I pay a tax on. If you go stay in a hotel, you pay a tax on that. I went down somewhere in California for a TIP conference. I thought, man, that's a lot of tax on a room. Whoa, it's a lot of money. A tourist tax, they call it, or something. Tax. Well, finally people just say, you know something? You go, I quit getting building permits a long time ago. If I want to fix something, I just fix it. But if I follow the law all the time, shoot, I'd be broke. But in California, you can't, they don't allow you. You have to add, essentially the government, you have the deed in your name, but the government really owns your property. In fact, it's funny, the other day I noticed that the city now is going to put down wells in the parks because they can't even afford to pay Cal Water. And so I asked, I don't know whether I asked in an article or over the radio, I wonder if I could put a well in my front yard. If the city can put a well in their front yard, maybe I could put a well in my front yard and get out from under this Cal Water ripoff. That's the highest bill I got. Well, that's it for today, right? That's it for the day. We're calling it a day. We'll see you. We'll be back with the show next week, but it'll be a little different. Wikiman's going to have Chris Ann Hall, and Dinesh D'Souza, I think, is going to have a clip in here. Okay. Have a good day.